My name is Cindy Bell. I belong to Grace United Church, Weyburn. I'm reading from the Good News Bible, Genesis number 13 to 16. Abram and Lot separate. Abram went north of the Egypt to the southern part of Canaan with his wife and everything he owned, and Lot went with him. Abram was a very rich man with sheep, goats, and cattle, as well as silver and gold. Then he left there and moved from place to place, going toward Bethel. He reached the place between Bethel and Ai, where he had camped before and had built an altar. There he worshipped the Lord. Lot also had sheep, goats, and cattle, as well as his own family and servants. And so there was not enough pasture land for the two of them to stay together, because they had too many animals. So quarrels broke out between the men who took care of Abram's animals and those who took care of Lot's animals. At that time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were still living in the land. Then Abram said to Lot, "We are relatives, and your men and my men shouldn't be quarreling. So let's separate. Choose any part of the land you want. You go one way and I'll go the other." Lot looked around and saw that the whole Jordan Valley, all the way to Zoar, had plenty of water, like the garden of the Lord's, or like the land of Egypt. This was before the Lord had destroyed the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose the whole Jordan Valley for himself and moved away toward the east. That was how the two men parted. Abram stayed in the land of Canaan, and Lot settled among the cities in the valley and camped near Sodom, where people were wicked and sinned against the Lord. Abram moves to Hebron. After Lot had left, the Lord said to Abram, "From where you are, look carefully in all directions. I'm going to give you and your descendants all the land that you see, and it will be yours forever. I'm going to give you so many descendants that no one will be able to count them all. It would be as easy to count all the specks of dust on earth. Now go and look over the whole land, because I am going to give it all to you." So Abram moved his camp and settled near the sacred trees of Mamre at Hebron, and there he built an altar to the Lord. Abram rescues Lot. 4 kings, Amraphel of Babylon, Arioch of Elashur, Chedorlaomer of Elam, and Tidal of Goyim, went to war against 5 other kings, Bera of Sodom, Bersha of Gomorrah, Shena of Admah, Sherenber of Zemboya, and the kings of Bela or Zor. These 5 kings had formed an alliance and joined forces in Siddim Valley, which is now the Dead Sea. They had been under the control of Chedorlaomer for 12 years, but in the 13th year they rebelled against him. In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and his allies came with their armies and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth, Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in the plain of Kirathaim, and the Horites in the mountains of Edom, pursuing them as far as El-Paran on the edge of the desert. They then turned around and came back to Kadesh, then known as Emeshphat. They conquered all the land of the Amalekites and defeated the Amorites who lived in Hazazar Tamar. Then the kings of Sodom, Gomorrah, Admar, Zebodium, and Bela drew up their armies for battle in the Siddim Valley and fought against the kings of Elam, Goam, Babylonia, and Elisha, 5 kings against 4. The valley was full of tar pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah tried to run away from the battle, they fell into the pits, but the other 3 kings escaped to the mountains. The 4 kings took everything in Sodom and Gomorrah, including the food, and went away. Lot, Abram's nephew, was living in Sodom, so they took him and all his possessions. But a man escaped and reported all this to Abram the Hebrew, who was living near the sacred tree belonging to Mamre, the Mordi. Mamre and his brothers Eshcol and Aner were Abram's allies. When Abram heard that his nephew had been captured, he called together all the fighting men in his camp, 318 in all, and pursued the 4 kings all the way to Dan. There he delivered his men into groups, attacked the enemy by night, and defeated them. He chased them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus, and got back all the loot that had been taken. He also brought back his nephew Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other prisoners. Melchizedek blesses Abram. When Abram came back from his victory over Chedorlaomer and the other kings, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in Shevra Valley also called King's Valley, and Melchizedek, who was king of Salem and also a priest of the Most High God, brought bread and wine to Abram, blessed him, and said, May the Most High God, who made heaven and earth, bless Abram. May the Most High God, who gave your victory over your enemies, be praised. And Abram gave Melchizedek a tenth of all the loot he had recovered. The king of Sodom said to Abram, Keep the loot, but give me back all my people. Abram answered, I solemnly swear before the Lord, the Most High God, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not keep anything of yours, not even a thread or a sandal strap. Then you can never say, I am the one who made Abram rich. I will take nothing for myself. I will accept only what my men have used. But let my allies, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, take their share. God's covenant with Abraham. After this, Abram had a vision and heard the Lord say to him, Do not be afraid, Abram. I will shield you from danger and give you a great reward. But Abram answered, Sovereign Lord, what good will your reward do me, since I have no children? My only heir is Isaac of Damascus. You have given me no children, and one of my slaves will inherit my property. Then he heard the Lord speaking to him again. This slave, Eliezer, will not inherit your property. Your own son will be your heir. The Lord took him outside and said, Look at the sky and try to count the stars. You will have as many descendants as that. Abram put his trust in the Lord, and because of this the Lord was pleased with him and accepted him. Then the Lord said to him, I am the Lord who led you out of Ur in Babylonia to give you this land as your own. But Abram asked, Sovereign Lord, how can I know that it will be mine? He answered, Bring me a cow, a goat, and a ram, each of them 3 years old, and a dove and a pigeon. Abram brought the animals to God, cut them in half, and placed the halves opposite each other in 2 rows, but he did not cut up the birds. Vultures came down to the bodies, but Abram drove them off. When the sun was going down, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and fear and terror came over him. The Lord said to him, Your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land. They will be slaves there and will be treated cruelly for 400 years. But I will punish the nation that enslaves them, and when they leave that foreign land, they will take great wealth with them. You yourself will live to a ripe old age, die in peace, and be buried. It will be 4 generations before your descendants come back here, because I will not drive out the Amorites until they become so wicked that they must be punished. When the sun had set and it was dark, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch suddenly appeared and passed between the pieces of the animals. Then and there the Lord made a covenant with Abram. He said, I promise to give you descendants all this land from the border of Egypt to the Euphrates River, including the lands of the Kenites, the Kenizzites, the Kedomites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Rephaim, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Girgashites, and the Jebusites. Hagar and Ishmael. Abram's wife Sarah had not borne him any children, but she had an Egyptian slave girl named Hagar. And so she said to Abram, The Lord has kept me from having children. Why don't you sleep with my slave girl? Perhaps she can have a child for me. Abram agreed with what Sarah said. So she gave Hagar to him to be his concubine. This happened after Abram had lived in Canaan for 10 years. Abram had intercourse with Hagar, and she became pregnant. When she found out that she was pregnant, she became proud and despised Sarah. Then Sarai said to Abram, It's your fault that Hagar despises me. I myself gave her to you, and ever since she found out that she was pregnant, she has despised me. May the Lord judge which of us is right, you or me. Abram answered, Very well. She is your slave and under your control. Do whatever you want with her. Then Sarai treated Hagar with cruelty, so she ran away. The angel of the Lord met Hagar at a spring in the desert on the road to Shur and said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going? She answered, I am running away from my mistress. He said, Go back to her and be her slave. Then he said, I will give you so many descendants that no one will be able to count them. You're going to have a son, and you will name him Ishmael, because the Lord has heard your cry of distress. But your son will live like a wild donkey. He will be against everyone, and everyone will be against him. He will live apart from all his relatives. Hagar asked herself, Have I really seen God and lived to tell about it? So she called the Lord who had spoken to her. a God who sees. That is why people call the well between Kadesh and Bered the well of the living one who sees me. Hagar bore Abram a son, and he named him Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old at the time. The word of the Lord.